And the thing about predators you should know is that they prey on the vulnerable. They prey on those who they do not believe are strong. Predators are cowards. Predators are cowards.
I think you've watched her sort of evolution of being the chief prosecutor.
So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
And I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
This is who she is. She's been trained to get the truth out of folks who are not forthcoming.
Is there a person you're talking about?
I'm asking you a very direct question, yes or no?
I think at every stage of her career, she's been in the arena and she's been fighting.
One of her childhood friends, recalling their early years together, said, you know, Kamala's just been ready for this moment her whole life. Even as a little kid, she just got out there and she would handle business.
So the one thing about Kamala, she's consistent. She's the same person now as she was then. We got along great, you know. We were together all the time. Let me take you back to kindergarten. There was a boy that had taken something I created, and I can't remember if we were doing like clay things or baking something or what have you, and took mine and messed it up, like threw it down, broke it. And so she stood up to him, took up for me. And as a result, he picked up either a rock or a brick and, you know, hit her. And her mom had to come from work. She had to go to the hospital and get stitches, you know, on and on. She's always been one that will stand up for what she thinks is right.
I feel a sense of responsibility to stand up and fight for the best of who we are. And I'm prepared to fight, and I know how to fight.
I love this one, too. So this was 1988. This is Kamala here, short haircut, really tapered. Her mom, Shamala, her sister, Maya.
So Kamala was born in Oakland, but really was a child of Berkeley. She and her sister Maya were raised primarily by their mother, Shamala, who was a single mom after she separated from her husband, Donald Harris. And her mother, even though she was from India, felt that living in Berkeley, it was really important to raise Maya and Kamala as strong, powerful Black women. Kamala went to Howard University. That was where she really developed like a real sense of herself and her own power.
Howard taught me, and it has taught you. You can do anything, and you can do everything.
And while she was there, one of the big influences in her life was her sorority.
You're also AKA.
Yes, I am. Those are my sorors, and my sands are in the room as well.
There are close to 300,000 women in Alpha Kappa Alpha.
It translates into a ready-made group of people who will come when she calls.
This isn't just a friendship or sisterhood. We're talking about political power.
We're talking about political power, and we have it.
Even before she became a prosecutor, she really made a point of working with some of the most disadvantaged women in the Bay Area.
She was organizing folks to figure out how to battle the real problem of sex trafficking in young women. And I was immediately enamored by her. She was young and amazing, but super tough.
Scared and facing a felony conviction for selling cocaine. But the single mother caught a break when she was diverted to Back on Track, a reentry program that diverts young, nonviolent, first-time drug offenders from prison back into productive life.
We charge them for committing the crime. They go to a courtroom and plead guilty because they did commit a crime. And this is about accountability. There's no fiction here. It's about, yeah, you did commit a crime, accept it, own up to it, and then let's talk about what we can do to change the circumstances going forward.
When Kamala created Back on Track, she deeply knew and understood the flaws in the criminal justice system. She came into office, she was very clear, not on my watch. Sometimes it was 7, 8, 9 at night, and she would, again, dressed like she was entering the courtroom. And I remember one of the young women asked her if she ever dressed down to work, and she said, "I would never come in front of you not being my best." What I saw her do with no resources, with an instinctual drive to change the system, was amazing.
As I hold the office of District Attorney for the City and County of San Francisco.
Congratulations.
You know, it's important, I think, to remember that she was running as the first female DA in San Francisco in our city's history. So we'd never had a woman in the state of California. There had never been a person of color to be DA. And, you know, it's funny, it's something that Shamala would say a lot of, you know, people might be comfortable with women in leadership, but not when it comes to their safety and not when it comes to their money.
She was so deep in third place. I remember someone in law school pulled me aside and he was like, "Susie, it's really admirable that you're supporting this woman. She does not have a chance, and if you really want to be a prosecutor, you can't support someone who has no chance against the sitting DA." Kamala wouldn't stop.
38-year-old Kamala Harris came out of nowhere and was swept into office as San Francisco's district attorney. And as she did, she made history. She's the first woman ever.
Those were the hardest years of her career.
Officer Isaac Espinosa was killed nearly 2 weeks ago on duty in the Bayview district. 21-year-old David Hill is accused of shooting Espinosa with an AK-47 assault weapon in the unprovoked attack.
Isaac Espinosa was a model cop. He was the type of person that you'd want on your side out there in the community, keeping you safe. He was undercover.
Pretty much everyone in the community was calling for the death penalty for this suspect. And Kamala Harris had made her position on the death penalty clear when she was running for DA. She didn't believe in the death penalty.
She did come under extreme fire for that, and she was really out there on her own. But her conviction never wavered.
She took it from all sides on that case, and I think probably the most bracing example was being at the funeral of Isaac Espinosa, and U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein had been invited to give the eulogy, and she departed from her prepared remarks, and she called out the district attorney, not by name, but making it very clear right in front of Kamala Harris that she felt that this was a case where the death penalty was warranted. And Kamala Harris stood her ground. Harris's decision not to pursue the death penalty for the killer of Isaac Espinosa actually came back around in her race for California Attorney General. She was running against Steve Cooley, who was the district attorney of Los Angeles County, and he basically made that race all about the death penalty.
Steve Cooley believes in the death penalty for murdering a police officer.
This election. And that race really went down to the wire. Initially, some news organizations called it for Cooley, and it took weeks for the final results to be counted.
I stand before you today, humbled to be chosen to be the next Attorney General of the state of California.
You position yourself as aligned with the progressive movement to make criminal justice less punitive and racist, yet your record as a prosecutor shows that you embrace the tough on crime mentality.
As a prosecutor, my duty was to seek and make sure that the most vulnerable and voiceless among us are protected.
As Attorney General, she is faulted for fighting to uphold cases where there had been wrongful convictions, in some cases where they had involved prosecutorial misconduct. Criminal justice advocates felt that she was much too cautious and politically calculating was often the criticism when she was Attorney General. She did a lot of work, both on her presidential campaign and over the last year, to try to address that distrust in the Black community. She believed, as a young lawyer, that she could make a big difference if she was working from within the system to try to affect change.
But I will not be running for the Senate in 2016.
So after Barbara Boxer announced her retirement from the U.S. Senate, Kamala Harris had a pretty easy glide path to the Senate. And she went out there and once again hustled and worked hard and won pretty easily.
So let's get to work. Si se puede!
I solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Once Harris made it to the Senate, she really made her mark not so much through legislation, but in the hearing room.
Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
Are you aware of any communications with other Trump campaign officials and associates that they had with Russian officials or any Russian nationals?
I don't recall that.
She's intense to be questioned by.
Is there a person you're talking about?
I'm asking you a very direct question, yes or no?
I've been on the other side of being questioned by her, so there's an aspect of sympathy or empathy I have with some of them.
The discretion
I see no
I'm not finished.
I see none.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
People come to politics from different backgrounds, but when you come to it from the background of being a courtroom prosecutor, with the strike of your pen, you take someone's liberty away. The training of a prosecutor makes you make that decision based on a full assessment of the facts. The truth is, she's also supremely fair, but you're not going to get away with hedging or equivocating or dodging. It's just, that's not going to work.
Even though Harris had only been in the Senate for 2 years, in January of 2019, she decided to jump into the presidential race.
As a young district attorney, I walked into the courtroom for the first time and said the 5 words that would guide my life's work. Kamala Harris, for the people.
So Kamala Harris looked like such a formidable candidate at the beginning of the race, but she never was able to maintain her position in that top tier steadily. She really struggled with fundraising, and she had a lot of infighting within her campaign, with some aides saying privately that it wasn't exactly clear who was in charge.
There is not a black man I know, be he a relative, a friend, or a coworker, who has not been the subject of some form of profiling or discrimination.
Ironically, one of the most difficult moments of Joe Biden's campaign was a moment in which Kamala Harris really delivered what everyone thought at the time was a knockout punch.
You know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
And so a lot of people thought that that might be a strike against her in the vice presidential vetting process, but clearly the Bidens have been able to work through that moment and get past it.
Go easy on me, kid.
How you doing? You good?
Good.
As a Gen Xer who's now 55, she does add a bit of youth and vitality to the ticket, and that's certainly something that will be important in terms of drawing in younger voters and female voters, which will be incredibly important this fall.
You belong. You belong, and we are all in this together, and he needs to go back to where he came from.
So Kamala Harris's role in the closing months of the campaign will be to be out there every day, taking the incoming from the Trump campaign. How do you think she's going to deal with that?
She's going to do what her mother would do, fight back.